Clint Eastwood is 95 years old. Most actors his age are long retired, but in 2024, he released a new film. In 2025, he's shooting another one. Hollywood executives whisper about what drives him to keep going. Then, the real story surfaced. A daughter he never knew existed walked into his office in 1989. She had been hidden for 35 years. DNA tests in 2018 confirmed the truth. That wasn't his only secret. There are things about his final years that will shock you. This isn't the Clint Eastwood story you know. Clint Eastwood came into the world on May 31, 1930, in San Francisco, right when the Great Depression was squeezing America in every direction. His father tried to stay steady as a bond salesman, but work kept slipping away, so the family kept moving from Hayward to San Jose to Sacramento, and then somewhere new whenever a job opened up. Clint was just a kid, but he kept packing and unpacking, shifting from one school to another so often that nothing ever felt permanent. Yet something in him hardened in a quiet way. By the time he turned 10, he had lived in at least 6 towns. Simple things were rare, but those years taught him how to bend without breaking, how to survive with whatever he had, and how to keep going even when nothing felt stable. When he was 6, life hit him harder than any move ever could. In 1936, he got pneumonia and diphtheria at the same time. Back then, diphtheria was deadly. It could take your breath away in minutes. Clint spent weeks trapped inside an iron lung while machines breathed for him. Doctors didn't expect him to grow strong again. They didn't even expect him to have a normal life. But he kept fighting. Slowly, he came out of it, and instead of staying weak, he grew into a tall, tough kid. Later in life, he said that surviving something like that gave him a different kind of toughness. It settled deep in him, shaping how he saw fear, pressure, and challenge. When the family settled in Piedmont in 1940, he entered junior high, but school never felt like home. He struggled with classes. Kids picked on him for being quiet and thin. Eventually, he moved over to Oakland Tech, hoping for something better. But in 1949, a small argument with a teacher over a misplaced exam turned into something bigger. Clint walked out and never returned. That moment pushed him into the world with no diploma and no plan. And he knew he had to build something on his own terms because no one else was going to do it for him. At 17, he tried the Army, but a training accident brought him out early. So he wandered through whatever job he could find. He chopped wood as a lumberjack in Oregon. He baled hay in California. He saved every dollar until he finally had $300 by 1951. It felt like a fortune to him, enough to buy his first car, a 1949 Ford Tudor. He swapped in a 3.73 rear-end gear and turned it into a drag racer. That car became his pride and a reminder that he could build things from scratch. Weekends were for racing, fixing engines, and learning how machines worked. It became a lifelong love. Then came the Korean War draft in 1951. Because of his medical past, he stayed stateside at Fort Ord as a swimming instructor. One day he hitched a ride back from Seattle on a Navy AD-1 bomber. The plane ran out of fuel near Point Reyes. It went down into the Pacific. Clint and the pilot escaped the sinking wreck and swam 2 miles through cold waves until they reached shore. He lost his shoes along the way and felt rocks tearing at his feet. But he kept going. That night stayed with him forever. Years later, when he directed Sully, people felt that same survival energy in the film because he had lived something close to it. His life changed again in 1954 when Universal Studios held a talent scout dinner. Clint sang a song from Guys and Dolls, and William Schifrin liked something in him. He got a contract for $75 a week. It was barely enough to stay alive in Los Angeles. He played uncredited extras like a sailor in Revenge of the Creature in 1955. No lines, no fame, long days, low pay. Some executives thought he lacked spark. Someone even called him lazy. By 1956, he was fired. Instead of quitting, he took night classes and worked as a lifeguard at Fort Ord to keep the lights on while still chasing a break. That break finally came with Rawhide in 1958. Clint played Rowdy Yates, second billing, not the star. The main actor, Eric Fleming, didn't like how viewers connected with Clint. The tension grew. Clint smoked 3 packs a day to handle the stress, and soon he developed ulcers so bad he needed hospital treatment. He almost quit acting altogether, but he kept pushing. With time, the audience saw something rugged and honest in him, and his popularity started rising. His personal life was just as tangled. He married Maggie Johnson in 1959 after a blind date, but his relationships were messy even then. Few people knew he had fathered a daughter named Lori in 1954 with stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis. Lori was adopted and not publicly acknowledged until 2018. Meanwhile, Clint was earning $1,000 per Rawhide episode by 1962. It seemed good money, but he needed more to feel secure. So he modeled for Kellogg's ads and put his earnings into real estate. One of his smartest moves was buying a home in the Hollywood Hills for $27,000. Its future value skyrocketed and gave him a safety net. Everything changed in 1964. A movie called A Fistful of Dollars was filmed in Spain with a tiny budget of $200,000. No one expected much. Clint earned only $15,000 for the whole film. Then it exploded worldwide and grossed $14.5 million. His character, the man with no name, hooked audiences instantly. He practiced the squint in mirrors to steady his nerves, and it became iconic. By the time the film reached American theaters in 1967, people realized something new was happening in Westerns. The next film, For a Few Dollars More in 1965, came with a bigger budget of $600,000. Clint improvised a whistle for his bounty hunter role and later had it dubbed. The movie earned $15 million. During filming, he and Sergio Leone clashed over control. Clint walked off and refused to return without an extra $50,000 on top of his original $50,000 salary. Leone's endless retakes drove everyone crazy, but the film became another classic. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly followed in 1966. Blondie buried $200,000 in gold on screen, while behind the scenes, the crew accidentally blew up all 3 cameras during the first try of the bridge explosion scene. The trilogy earned more than $50 million overall. Clint got tired of weak contract deals negotiated by his agent. He fired her and handled things himself. Soon he secured a $1 million deal for future Leone films. Shooting in the Almeria desert meant 110-degree heat and hospital visits for exhaustion. He pushed through anyway. That hot Spanish desert also held another piece of his personal chaos. Rumors grew about an affair he had with Eli Wallach's stand-in during filming. Stories like that built up his rebellious image and turned him into one of Hollywood's most talked-about men. With the trilogy behind him, Clint used $15,000 of his own savings to start Malpaso Productions in 1967. People thought the spaghetti westerns were a bad career step, so he named his company after that idea. His first directing project, Play Misty for Me in 1971, showed everyone that he was more than an actor. He even turned down a role in Deliverance to make sure he could direct the film the way he wanted. That decision set the path for the rest of his career. By 1968, he was not just a star. He was a sex symbol. Hang 'Em High brought him $400,000 and his first taste of directing second-unit scenes. He negotiated for a share of the film's net earnings too, showing how sharp he was with business. The movie's success proved he didn't need Leone to carry a Western. He could stand on his own. Clint Eastwood's rise during the early 70s felt like someone pushing open a heavy door and refusing to let it close again. It all began with Dirty Harry in 1971, a film that exploded into theaters with the kind of force nobody expected. It cost just $4 million to make and pulled in $36 million, but the story behind it was even louder than the box office. Eastwood delivered the famous line, "Do you feel lucky?" in a way that felt sharp and natural because he made it up on the spot. The danger on set was real too. He carried a loaded .44 Magnum for authenticity, and one day it fired so close to a crew member that people froze where they stood. Tension hung in the air even when cameras stopped. Don Siegel and Eastwood argued over script changes. Eastwood even rewrote the ending so Harry wouldn't die, something the original version planned. He also did his own stunts, even jumping onto a hijacked school bus without a double. With every risk, every argument, every late night, the film turned into more than a hit. It turned into a cultural storm that followed him everywhere. Soon after, he stepped behind the camera again for High Plains Drifter in 1973. The shoot lasted only 11 weeks, but the work was intense. The film cost $3.7 million and earned $15.7 million. Eastwood wanted the story to feel haunting, almost like a memory that refuses to fade. He said it came from moments after surviving a plane crash, and that feeling soaked into every frame. To build the world he wanted, he ordered an entire town to be constructed near Mono Lake. Workers used more than 150,000 feet of lumber and finished the whole thing in just 18 days. Everything was real. Every wall and roof could be filmed inside and out. After shooting, he even dubbed all the townspeople's voices himself, something almost no Hollywood director ever tried. The film wrapped ahead of schedule and under budget, but its dark tone divided people. Even so, it showed how far he would go to control his vision. By 1976, the pressure around him had only grown. The outlaw Josie Wales came together with power, chaos, and trouble tangled together. The film cost $3.5 million and earned back 10 times that. Eastwood improvised the tobacco spit that became the film's punch of humor. Still, the shoot was messy. He fired director Philip Kaufman after 10 days. Whispers spread that Kaufman didn't like Eastwood's relationship with Sandra Locke, and arguments kept breaking out. The firing led to a $60,000 fine from the Directors Guild. Then production stopped completely when Chief Dan George walked off after seeing how a buffalo hunt scene was being handled. At the same time, Eastwood was drowning in IRS problems from 1975. Malpaso owed $4 million in taxes, and he had to sell things like his yacht just to stay afloat. Those years made it clear that success in Hollywood could burn just as fast as it could shine. Things turned stranger and darker with Any Which Way You Can in 1980. The movie earned $70 million and looked like a fun comedy on screen. Off-screen, the truth was awful. Clyde, the orangutan who became a fan favorite, was beaten by his trainer Boone Narr. Witnesses said he used a cane and even an axe handle. Clyde's final beating left him with a cerebral hemorrhage, and he died before filming fully wrapped. The studio quietly replaced him so the movie could continue. Later, Eastwood said moving into these comedies was a mistake. The tragedy revealed how little protection animals had on sets at the time, and Clyde's story still leaves people shaken. Then came the part of his life few expected. In 1986, Clint Eastwood ran for mayor of Carmel by the Sea and won with 70% of the vote. For 2 years, he tried to reshape the tiny town. He banned street ice cream carts to preserve the town's calm. But when he approved a McDonald's drive-thru, people erupted in anger. Nearly 500 residents formed a group to push back against his development plans. Things heated up even more when his architect filed a project application just hours before a building moratorium. People said he had inside information and was using his power. After endless zoning fights and scandals, he stepped down in 1988. He later admitted he never wanted Carmel to turn into urban sprawl, but his time in office left a mix of charm and chaos that people still talk about. In 1992, everything changed with Unforgiven. This was the story he carried for years. He paid $350,000 for the script back in 1976 and waited until he felt old enough to play the role. When the film finally released, it cost $31 million and made $159 million in the United States alone. It won 4 Oscars in 1993, including Best Picture and Best Director for Eastwood and Best Supporting Actor for Gene Hackman. Hackman shaped his villain after real outlaws from the Old West. The long wait, the patience, the aging into the role gave the film a weight people could feel. It became one of the greatest westerns ever made. But the spotlight didn't always shine kindly. In 1989, Eastwood's affair with Frances Fisher led to the birth of their daughter in 1993. Around that time, he split from Sandra Locke, who had been with him for years. Locke sued him for $1.5 million in palimony. The case revealed painful details. It came out that Eastwood had quietly gotten a vasectomy while urging Locke to end pregnancies. She said the breakup destroyed her career. The public trial exposed pieces of their private world that neither of them ever expected people to hear. Then came Firefox in 1982, a Cold War thriller that cost $21 million and made $45 million worldwide. The story followed an American pilot sneaking into the Soviet Union. Eastwood even learned Russian phonetically for his lines. During filming, a helicopter involved in an aerial sequence crashed, shaking the entire crew. Effects problems hurt the movie's box office, but it still offered something different in his long list of roles, mixing spy tension with futuristic ideas. A year later, Sudden Impact hit theaters in 1983. This was the movie that gave the world the line, "Go ahead, make my day." Eastwood said he drew inspiration from watching a real police standoff. After release, merchandise with the phrase shot up by 300%. Audiences repeated it everywhere. Writers Charles B. Pierce and John Milius were behind the idea, but the line became part of Clint Eastwood's identity and one of Hollywood's most iconic quotes. The mid-2000s brought another Oscar moment. Million Dollar Baby in 2004 became one of his most personal films. It cost $30 million and earned more than $100 million worldwide. Eastwood directed, produced, and starred in it alongside Hilary Swank. The ending shocked many people. Studios wanted something softer, something happier. But Eastwood refused. He believed the original ending held the heart of the story. The film's emotional weight echoed the real case of boxer Leisha Feather Gray, whose injury raised difficult questions about pain and dignity. The film sparked global discussion about assisted suicide and the risks athletes face. Before that, in 1988, he made Bird, a jazz-fueled passion project. It cost $9 million and earned the same amount back, making it a financial wash. Even so, Eastwood threw himself into the story of Charlie Parker. He traveled, asked questions, and even spoke with legends like Miles Davis. Music was recorded live, no studio tricks. Eastwood had played piano as a teen, and jazz sat close to his heart. Even though Bird struggled at the box office, it won him the Golden Globe for Best Director. The financial failure scared studios, but he kept his love for jazz alive, even owning a jazz club in Carmel later. In 1996, trouble hit closer to home. A bridge collapsed at his Mission Ranch property, and caused a resident's home to slide into a creek. Investigations showed weak engineering, and the homeowner sued for $1 million. Eastwood admitted publicly that he had trusted the wrong contractors. He settled the case quietly. It was rare to see him in that position, facing criticism and accepting fault. The incident pushed the city to tighten regulations for bridges in wealthy neighborhoods. Then came Gran Torino in 2008. Eastwood paid the $33 million cost himself. The movie ended up making $148 million. At the end of the credits, he sang in a soft falsetto, something he insisted on for the story's authenticity. The film grew out of things he had seen among Hmong families in Sacramento. Some groups criticized the movie for stereotypes, while others praised it for opening a conversation about immigrant life. But the care he put into acting, directing, and shaping the music showed how strongly he felt about the project. Invictus followed in 2009. Shot in South Africa for $50 million, the film starred Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela. Eastwood studied real footage from the 1995 Rugby World Cup to help Freeman match Mandela's voice and presence. Many praised the film for its accuracy and emotion. Some critics said it softened some of Mandela's complexity. Even so, the access to real locations and former rugby players made the story feel grounded and true. By 1995, his reputation reached a new peak when he won Best Director for Unforgiven, becoming the first Western director to win since 1931. His speech lasted only moments. He stepped up to the mic and said he tried to think of something to say, but couldn't. People laughed softly. It matched everything they knew about him. A man who worked hard, said little, and let the work speak. Then came Sully in 2016. It told the story of Captain Chesley Sullenberger's emergency landing on the Hudson River in January 2009. All 155 people survived, and Eastwood wanted to honor that miracle with precision. He shot the entire movie in 40 days and spent $125 million to bring it to life. It earned $240 million at the box office and shocked people with how real everything looked. Eastwood used 2 retired Airbus A320s as sets. One was dragged onto Falls Lake at Universal Studios and placed on a 350-ton gimbal to mimic the landing. He even sat inside a real Airbus simulator to understand what Sully felt in those seconds before the impact. His own history as a pilot and a plane crash survivor shaped his approach. During the rescue scenes, the real ferryboat captain who helped in 2009 played himself. The actors reacted without a script to capture the chaos. The reviews were mixed, but people respected the authenticity, and the craft behind every moment felt honest. But Eastwood didn't always stay behind the camera. In 2012, he walked onto the stage at the Republican National Convention and spoke for 12 unpredictable minutes to an empty chair that represented President Obama. More than 22 million people watched him talk, joke, pause, and ramble through thoughts that felt half improvised and half frustrated. He called Obama absolutely crazy and insisted he wasn't going to shut up. The criticism came fast. Many said it damaged the apolitical image he had carried for decades. Later, Eastwood said the whole thing was improvised because he wanted to keep it real. He knew it irritated a lot of the left, but he didn't back away. He said he just wanted to speak for people in the middle. At 89, he returned to directing with The Mule, the story of Leo Sharp, a 90-year-old drug courier for the Sinaloa cartel. What shocked people most was Eastwood's stamina. He performed his own stunts. He drove at 80 miles per hour for chase scenes. The film made $152 million on a $50 million budget, and people praised his portrayal of aging, regret, and redemption. He spent months studying Leo Sharp's life, even though many details were missing, so he blended truth with dramatic invention. And somehow, while acting, directing, and editing, he made everything feel grounded. It reminded Hollywood that even at 89, he wasn't slowing down. 2 years later, in 2024, he released Juror 2. It premiered at AFI Fest on October 27th as his 40th directing credit. He was 94. The film starred Nicholas Hoult, Toni Collette, and J.K. Simmons, but Eastwood didn't rely on celebrity shine. He cast mostly lesser-known actors to keep the courtroom tension sharp and real. He edited the final cut himself in his home studio. At the premiere, the crowd filled the room, but Eastwood wasn't there. The cast led a tribute, and the whole place echoed with a warm call, "We love you, Clint." Warner Brothers kept the release small, with fewer than 50 theaters, raising questions about the strategy. Still, critics praised the film's moral weight and the clarity of Eastwood's storytelling. Even at 94, he delivered something powerful. People talk about how fast he works. He has always been proud of his efficiency. His films often finish in under 30 days and rarely need more than 2 takes. He rehearses well, shoots quickly, and never lets a scene drown in overthinking. He usually comes in under budget by about 20%. This approach influenced filmmakers like Christopher Nolan, who said Eastwood taught him to use no-frills techniques and to trust practical filmmaking. In a world where directors chase massive crews and huge budgets, Eastwood kept things quiet, simple, and effective. And actors love him for that. But behind the camera and the awards, there were secrets too. One of the biggest surfaced with his daughter, Laurie Murray. She was born in 1954 from his affair with dancer Roxanne Tunis. Laurie had been raised by Roxanne's friend Molly because Roxanne placed her for adoption. Clint never knew. Laurie grew up with no idea that Eastwood was her father. In the late 1980s, she began searching for her roots, and by March 1989, she walked into Eastwood's office carrying photos, letters, and a birth certificate. The truth was heavy. DNA tests in 2018 confirmed she was his daughter. They reunited publicly, and Hollywood was stunned. Laurie then sued her mother for hiding her identity and demanded a public apology. The story revealed the distance and complexity of Eastwood's private life. Another painful chapter came from his relationship with Sandra Locke. In the 1970s and 1980s, she said he pressured her to have 2 abortions because he didn't want children to disrupt their life. She explained in her 1989 lawsuit that he pushed her toward natural birth control, which failed twice. When she got pregnant again, she said he told her to end it. She also revealed she had a tubal ligation because he didn't want kids with her. Her lawsuit, valued at $70 million, described how Eastwood changed the locks on their home and moved her things into storage while she was away filming. It shocked the industry and exposed a colder side of him that many had never seen. Years later, his marriage to Dina Ruiz ended. They married in 1996, and their daughter Morgan was born the same year. By 2014, the marriage was over. Dina filed for divorce, asking for physical custody of their 16-year-old daughter and spousal support. They had lived apart for years, and rumors of Eastwood being involved with other women added tension. The prenup made the process complicated, and Eastwood resisted her support requests. Their 18-year marriage officially ended in December 2014. The case revealed how his personal world sometimes cracked under the weight of fame and secrecy. But Eastwood wasn't only shaped by conflict. In 1986, he bought Mission Ranch in Carmel for $4.5 million. The 22-acre site was about to become condos. Instead, he restored it with care, recreating original moldings, hardware, and the gentle charm of the 1800s. He even oversaw sheep herding scenes to keep the atmosphere authentic. Now the ranch operates as a 30-room inn and brings in around $5 million each year. He negotiated with 17 previous owners to save it. he turned a fading property into a community treasure. His company, Malpaso Productions, grew just as boldly. Founded in 1967, it produced more than 40 films and brought in over $2 billion in box office returns. In 1990, he sued Warner Bros. For $60 million, arguing they owed him a share of profits from several films. The case settled, but Eastwood walked away with greater creative control. Malpaso's first film, Hang 'Em High, in 1968, was the start of one of the most successful independent studios in Hollywood. His love for jazz also shaped his world. In 1990, he launched the Mission Ranch Jazz Festival. Stars like Rosemary Clooney performed there, and his son Kyle often joined the stage. In 2024, he received the Monterey Jazz Festival's Cultural Leadership Award. He composed scores for films like Mystic River in 2003 and earned Grammy nominations. Music was more than a hobby. It was a quiet part of his life that kept him grounded. Then came philanthropy. After a terrifying NICU incident in his family, he founded Preemies, a nonprofit that donated $10 million to cancer research. He quietly gave $100,000 to build a school in a struggling community. He never promoted these acts in interviews. People discovered them later and realized he had helped more than they knew. His life in aviation also carried a mix of thrill and danger. He flew a 1960s Bell 47 helicopter during promo tours for Firefox. In 1991, fog forced him to land in Monterey, and the close call changed him. It made him cautious. In 1997, he donated 340 acres in Carmel Valley, worth $6 million, to the Big Sur Land Trust. The land remains untouched, preserved for future generations. At 95, he stood against Hollywood's obsession with remakes. In a June 2025 interview with a newspaper in Austria, he said, "We live in an era of remakes and franchises, and if filmmakers can't do something new, they should stay at home." Half of the top films in 2024 were franchise entries, but he still pushed for originality. His new untitled film moved into pre-production with the possibility of a late 2025 release. He insisted he had more experience than ever and said some directors fade with age, but he hadn't. The awards tell their own story. Eastwood has won 8 Academy Awards across 7 films. Unforgiven in 1992 earned Best Picture, Best Director, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Film Editing. It received 9 nominations and revived the Western genre at a time when it had nearly vanished. For 2 decades, only 3 Westerns had been nominated for Best Picture. Eastwood's film changed that. Later, $1 Million Baby in 2004 brought him another Best Director Oscar and Best Picture. It crossed $100 million at the U.S. box office. Through his career, 6 of his films earned Best Picture nominations. In a 2010 memoir, he wrote that the less secure a man is, the more he directs. The line revealed how he felt about confidence and control. His evolution from a spaghetti Western actor to an Oscar-winning filmmaker showed that his strength was built slowly, across 6 decades, through more than 30 films. His minimalist style, his trust in actors, and his quiet certainty gave him a place few have reached. People also talk about his age and how he defies it. Only 5% of Hollywood directors over 80 still make major films. Yet here he is at 95, pushing ahead with a new project. He challenges ageism simply by continuing. In a 2025 profile, someone wrote that Eastwood's refusal to retire proves experience can rise above youth in art. And his life proves exactly that. He moves forward with steady hands, sharp instincts, and a belief that storytelling is worth fighting for, no matter how old you get.